Fabiana Otero is the Director of Sustainability at Goodwill of Delaware in Delaware County. Her work is rooted in the stewardship of donated goods and the redesign of systems that determine how materials are valued, reused, and reintegrated into local economies. Sustainability at Goodwill focuses on advanced textile circularity, scaling materials recovery initiatives, and building cross-sector collaborations that turn secondhand materials into resources. Fabiana earned her Sustainable Innovation MBA from the University of Vermont and is a true zero waste advisor. So I will turn it over to you, so Fabiana, if you can share your slides.
Yes, and can you remind me, Debbie, how much time I should take?
I mean, I think we have technically an hour total, so if you want to leave time for questions, 45 minutes.
Which should not take that long, but questions should be aplenty. I'm used to getting lots of questions after this type of presentation. Thank you, Debbie, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm here just to kind of share some insight on Goodwill and just general sustainable practices that I lead in the organization. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay. Social enterprise designed for reuse. So it all starts back in the early 1900s, where our founder, Edgar J. Helms in Boston, Massachusetts, wanted to help people who were facing barriers to employment in his community. And the way he went about it was collecting donations from the wealthier neighborhoods and training staff to repair and refurbish these materials. That was the very beginning of Goodwill, and since then has spread across the nation in different territories and different capacities. And that brings me to my next point, that a little known fact not many people know, which is that the Goodwill Network is made up of 150 local nonprofit organizations that work independently from each other, but we're highly collaborative. And what does that mean? That means that across territory and territory, different Goodwill organizations operate differently, provide different services, but we all have the same social mission to help people find employment who are facing barriers. And just as a reminder, what is a nonprofit? So our income is reinvested back into the organization. We have a board of directors made up of local leaders, and our success is measured by impact and effectiveness in achieving our mission. I'm going to talk further about this later in the presentation as well, but to highlight a mission moment, which is something that Goodwill does at every presentation. Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County partners with Goodwill Industries of the Chesapeake and Greater Washington, so that's Maryland, DC, Virginia area, respectively. We have strongly aligned sustainability initiatives. And one of the initiatives through the funding of a Truist Charitable Fund grant that we have endeavored, all three of us together, is undergoing in-house glass recycling. So each three of our organizations has invested in a glass pulverizer. And through that, we've provided a lot of training to our employees, not just in operating the machine, but also in understanding their own sustainable impact and working for an organization like Goodwill. And I just got the report back from our HR team. And since 2024, Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County alone has trained over 800 of our team members in sustainability training. And that's just understanding what sustainability means and what that looks like. So Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County. We've been in the area for 105 years, and we provide services such as career navigation, case management, digital training, senior employment programs, disability services, and re-entry employment programs as well. Our Goodwill territory has this type of composition of stores. Again, it could vary territory to territory. We have one outlet store, one recycling center, and 4 opportunity hubs or career resource centers. We also have an e-commerce operation, 17 retail stores, and 2 attended donation centers. So what does the life cycle look like of donations at Goodwill? So we get a donation, and through different levels of assessment, we are able to find a new home for these goods through 3 different channels. So that's e-commerce. On shopgoodwill.com, it kind of functions like an eBay where you can find goods from all across the nation. Our retail stores, which people are familiar with, and our outlet, or some people call the bins, where you can purchase donated goods by the pound. And right now it's $1.84 by the pound. Now, if we can't sell any of these unsold goods, in order to make way for new donations, we then take a fourth measure to find another pathway for reuse for these materials. And that's through recycling, well, more so sorting and categorizing the different materials and diverting them towards other organizations that can reuse or recycle. And I'll provide some more details on that shortly. So talking with this team, I can get a little bit more technical with this presentation and kind of add that extra layer of the circular economy. How do we fit into that model? So Goodwill, first and foremost, prioritizes reuse. We want to get these donations back into new hands to be reused. And so that could look like refurbishment, repair, repurpose, recycling, any sort of measure to have these goods reused properly. And so for our territory, we're able to sort items that haven't been sold, such as linens, hard and soft toys, books, clothes, pots and pans, purses, cardboard, and plastic film, and electronics. These are different examples of category of materials that if they've not been purchased, we're able to find another pathway for them. So in 2025, through a program partnership with Dell Technologies, we were able to send them 58,000 pounds of electronics. So for example, when we get donated a laptop, that's not something that we will resell in the store. We need to send it to Dell to get properly wiped of any data or information. And Dell also will recycle and piece apart these different types of equipment to then be reused in products as well. We partner with Next Trex, a grassroots program through the company Trex. So we sent them 43,000 pounds, over 43,000 pounds of plastic film to be used in their composite decking products. The plastic film that we get is primarily from bagged donations. People put their donations in garbage bags, for instance, or maybe even some donations that we get have a plastic film material. So we bail that up and we send that to Trek. And then we have a local partnership with a Philly organization called USRI, or Newman Paper Packaging. And last year we sent close to 500,000 pounds of cardboard that is reused into paperboard. Now this is a product that looks similar to cardboard, and it's used for packaging in materials such as board games and jewelry boxes from brands like Tiffany's. So these are just 3 examples of partnerships that we have for donations that go unsold. Last year, we have an estimated 580,000 donors. We were able to rehome or reuse over 22 million pounds of goods. And our personal goal is to achieve 80% of reuse for all donations. And we're close, and hopefully we can achieve that this year. So I'm talking about environmental impact when it comes to sustainability, but this all ties in with the people that we serve and our mission to be prosperous and continue to grow and serve the community in the future. And we call that the triple bottom line. So what does that look like? So as I mentioned before, we provide we provide employment for justice involved individuals. It's our work a day, earn a day, or work a day, earn a pay program, where we provide them employment and through case management services are able to help them get on their feet and re-entered into society. Hopping over to the planet section, we're able to divert many materials away from the landfill. And we consider ourselves a social enterprise model. We are a almost like a hub and spoke model across the country where many Goodwills are contributing to a larger impact. Nationally, as I mentioned before, even though each territory is independent, we are highly collaborative, and that's through the facilitation of Goodwill Industries International. They are located in Maryland, but primarily have a remote working staff. They were able to receive funding from the Walmart Foundation, and a handful of Goodwills, including Delaware and Delaware County, are participating in a traceability study. So we put trackers on all the textile bales that we send overseas, and we have we're still in the data analysis process, but we're trying to figure out more details of what our downstream supply chain looks like. Where are these textiles going? How might they be being used? And what improvements can Goodwill across the nation make? We also have a partnership for textile recycling with Waste Management, or WM, and a polyester recycler called Reju. And the hope is to implement polyester recycling in the Goodwill network at scale in the United States. I mentioned before, regionally, we have a partnership with the DC and Baltimore Goodwills. And locally, we do a lot of work with the University of Delaware. There's an organization called Respool, made up of a textile or fashion design professor and an anthropology professor, and we do a lot of research and development projects with them. We've also worked with an eco-entrepreneurship class, a social entrepreneurship class, and this year I've engaged with a lot of other universities just to provide some education in different classroom settings. So that's Bard College, Villanova University, Newman, Wilmington University, and Delaware State University as well. So here's a picture of our pulverizer. This exists in the Newcastle facility that we have. This facility is a 2-in-1 case where the front of it is our outlet and the back is our recycling center. So we call this the Goodwill Recycling Center. So we have this pulverizer that is able to pulverize glass into a sand-like material. We're currently sending this to a construction company to be used for sandblasting purposes, but we're still trying to find, I guess, better end market options for this material that we're producing. So we're in conversations with the watershed team at DENREC, talking to companies when it comes to potential applications for golf courses or recreational uses, or you name it. We are trying to find any possible solution for our glass band. We've also conducted a lot of plastic audits as well, as we try to find other solutions for plastic recycling. Like with any material, we have to have a better understanding what types of plastics we have. And from this audit, we found out that we had, unsurprisingly, a huge concentration of polypropylene and polyethylene products. We do a lot of textile audits as well. So this is a huge endeavor where we audited over 9,000 units of garments for different characteristics like fabric composition, using near-infrared spectrometers, brand footprint, quality, garment type and sizes. We partnered with the Respool organization on this. We had over 100 students and 50 Goodwill team members participate in this audit. So these are just some examples of the different initiatives where we do a lot of the upfront research and development on before we move it towards larger scale sustainability impact. If you have any questions, I am here to answer them all and just have a general discussion, but that will be it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fabiana. I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anybody have questions? I guess I'll start with one. You just mentioned the glass recycling. Is this like glassware that people donate that doesn't sell, or?
Yes, and here, let me stop sharing my screen. I can reshare it if it is.
Yeah, it's still you're still sharing it, I guess. Or I'm still seeing it.
How about now?
Yeah.
So yes, the glass that's unsold. So for this, and it varies for different partners that want to take this sand product. The partner that we have will take clear glass and colored glass, but not Pyrex or ceramics. So currently what we're doing at the store level is if glass isn't sold, they sort it and they bring it to the Goodwill Recycling Center, where we then do a second round of assessment to make sure we have the appropriate glass items to then process through the pulverizer. And the pulverizer has two different, or actually three different outputs. So about 80% of it is going to be that sand-like material, and 20% of it is a cullet material, so like chunkier sand sizes. And then there's a third bucket that will spit out any random pieces like papers or plastics or metals that might have been around or inside the glass material. But for now, that's how we're sorting it. But depending on different requirements from different end markets, we are prepared to sort it in whatever manner is most efficient.
Yeah, and this might be a little out of your realm, but do you know, like when we send put glassware in our recycling, they only take certain kinds. So like you have different outlets for the, like they wouldn't take like drinking glasses or that sort of thing. I think they only take like jars and specific things.
You mean at Goodwill?
No, no, like in our waste collection, like they also recycle glass, but it's only specific things. And I didn't know if you have different outlets than they do, or I
No,
mean,
I think it's a different process, and I am familiar with the glass recycling product process at Murph's from a previous
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
This is different. So
yeah,
we're working with whatever gets donated. We're not collecting from
yeah,
curbside or anything. And the benefit to that is that these materials are dry, they're clean, and they're easy to handle. So we're not having to clean or dry anything. And so we work with each partner. This construction company has an additional recycling process that they put the product through that, for example, can't take Pyrex because it can be highly combustible. So that's just a scenario where we have to take out certain things, but everything else just gets combined to create that final product.
okay. Neat. I see a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see. First one, were those Delaware numbers or national numbers pounds of material?
Those were Delaware numbers. Yes, the 22 million pounds, that was Delaware for 2025. Delaware and Delaware County. So we have a bit of Pennsylvania.
Okay. Another one, could textiles for recycling be donated in a bag labeled as such? For example, clean socks with holes, etc.
Would it be?
I think I've wondered that too. Like if you have things that you don't think are wearable or resellable, can we still donate them? And you would
We
just
encourage donations no matter the condition. We're always going to sell the donations that are safe for our customers to then buy. So of course we get a lot of wish cycling where people will donate socks with holes or sweaters that are extremely pilled or things that are wet or soiled. Those are not things that we would resell to our customers, but we still bail them and send them to organizations that will turn them into rags or other second life products. The hope is that as we approach polyester recycling, for instance, with that the partnership with Waste Management and Reju, we can sell those maybe lower condition items immediately to textile recycling, so that it doesn't have to go through so many steps of can this be reused or not.
so that recycling partnership, they're looking at actually turning it back into like another usable product.
Yes. So, and I guess that's the nuance of the word recycling. Like, what does that process actually mean, right? I don't have to preach to the choir here to this audience. But yes, when we're talking about textile recycling in this context, Reju is a polyester recycler that will take a polyester garment or a garment with a certain threshold of polyester in it and turn it back into pellets and turn it back into fiber to then be used by a manufacturer to turn it back into a garment.
See another one here. How long is an item typically kept for sale before it moves on to the next stage of recycling reuse?
And so this answer again is going to vary Goodwill to Goodwill. Ours is a handful of weeks. We give it that much time before we need to make space for more volume of donations that we get. But that's why we're strategic with our different channels of reuse. E-commerce, the more vintage or potentially unique items will go to e-commerce. Now, not all, because we don't want to remove the treasures from Goodwill. So just a
Mhm.
certain portion goes to e-commerce. But they'll have a higher sell-through rate, and then retail has a lower sell-through rate. And then outlet, what happens is these unsold items from the retail stores get dumped into these large blue bins. And customers at the outlet have an hour to dig through the bins before it then goes through that fourth pathway of finding another organization to reuse or recycle it.
Other questions? So here's another one just popped up. Other states have high-end Goodwill stores. Is there any interest in putting one in Delaware?
So there is, and I think an example of that, which is one of my favorite, I guess you could say Goodwill boutique stores, is in Philly. So that's Goodwill of South New Jersey, has a store that's white labeled. You wouldn't even know it's called Goodwill, um, or that it is Goodwill, but it's called like Reclaimed, or I don't know if that the name of the store is, but you could consider that a more high-end thrift store or a consignment store. That strategy to have those more boutique stores is, up to each Goodwill territory. And the question, it's a business question, whether it's something that will be successful in different demographics, different regions. My experience is that these boutique stores have been declining in popularity, just based on business capabilities of each territory. I love the idea, but it's not something that we currently have or have current plans for. I think I even remember, so I'm from South Florida, and I remember in West Palm, there used to be a Goodwill boutique, and it was called a Goodwill boutique, but it doesn't exist anymore. So I think, trends go up and down, but, if I had to predict, the secondhand market is exponentially increasing in value and popularity. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe more of these higher end thrift stores for Goodwill start popping up.
Yeah, I have a daughter who's in her early 20s, and she's big into thrifting, and they know like different stores have different, because they have different demographics they kind of
Uh-huh.
to go to.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
right, yeah,
I'll travel miles to go to,
yeah,
the consignment stores or the thrift stores that I like as well. So I hear you there. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's see. I have another question. What percentage of your revenue do you dedicate to recycling?
What percentage of them? Hmm, I don't have an answer for that. Um, I think that's an answer for
Yeah,
our retail team, as to how they allocate, a budgeting for e-com or retail or the recycling center. Don't have
yeah.
that answer. I will say, maybe to add some more context though, the overall strategy is to prioritize reuse, right? So we have plans for increasing our footprint at the recycling center, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure these goods are first and foremost resold at a store level.
Mhm.
So if that gives you maybe some inclination to what the answer could be, there's that.
Yeah. Other questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves too if anybody just wants to ask a question. Question.
Yeah, Fabiana, this is Greg. I'm with Denrec. So Debbie kind of answered your question about glass that you were asking about earlier. So the glass that is acceptable in the curbside cart in Delaware, your bottles and jars, that glass, the reason that specific glass is accepted is because there's kind of a certain melting point to that type of material that can then be kind of turned back into glasses, whereas like a Pyrex or picture frames or, drinking glasses or things like that. They're made with different materials and have a different kind of chemistry and makeup to them. So it's more complicated. Separate that and then recycle it from the material that's there. That's kind of one of the reasons. And
Yeah,
we're kind
no,
of
and to your point, that kind of reminds me of, so we have a recycling permit, a coastal zone permit, and an air quality registration acquired to operate this pulverizer. And some of the requirements from the recycling permit is to do ongoing metal testing. So not just metal testing, but also risk assessments and grain size testing. Like we're doing a lot of measures to test this product to first and foremost make sure it's safe and usable for a certain market. So to Greg's point, I guess those materials are a lot more of a monotype material that behave accordingly. And we're dealing with glass that was made 100 years ago or 5 days ago, right? So it gets a bit trickier when it comes to finding an end market because there are um, tons of solutions for recycled glass bottles or glass, like simpler products. But because we have such a mishmash of products and different potential metals that are appearing, it makes it a bit trickier to find someone who can use that. Thanks, Greg, for bringing that to my
Great.
attention.
Any other questions? Um, might have just been somebody leaving. Okay, I don't see any other questions. I mean, this is great. I just want to say this is great to hear. I never thought about like what you do with like when I donate my clothes in a trash bag, where that trash bag goes, or where my cardboard boxes go, and it's clear that you're like all of that is getting recycled or going to another use too.
Yeah, well, in my role, I'm focusing heavily on glass, plastic, and textiles. Um, but I'm also in the periphery thinking about the plastic film, right? Like the tinier items like plastic film or cardboard, um, furniture, metals. I mean, there's just so much, and each one has its own barriers when it comes to finding a reuse or recycling avenue for but yeah, we're trying to think of it all.
I mean, that'd be another question. Like, if furniture doesn't sell, what do you do with that?
That one's trickier. We have found a partner. I'm not sure how successful it's going to be in the long run, but someone who is willing to take the furniture. But for the most part, if furniture is complicated to recycle because again, it's treated with chemicals, it's wood, it's plastic, it's metals. So yeah, we're not able to find a pathway to have that reused or recycled. But we're trying to come up with a lot more creative ideas to get that, quickly into the hands of someone else, whether it's a customer or a partner.
Yeah, I'd imagine like the paint and the finishes on it would make that more complicated because it's not just wood or
Yeah, no, and there's Goodwills. Again, it's helpful to be part of a network of 150 other organizations that are trying different things so that we're not having to, um, think independently. There's another Goodwill who is looking into recycling all wood furniture. So that's one step. So we're working with them and trying to hear more updates to how far they've come, but it's still in infancy of organizations that are recycling, willing to recycle furniture.
Fabiana, this is Greg again. Is there anything that is there kind of a preferred method that we could promote to residents to say, make sure your donations are in a paper bag or loose or something to reduce some of that waste? Because I know when dropping things off at the store, you typically just bring out a bin and say, "Hey, put everything in this bin," and they don't even touch it. Like they don't really care what's there. And I'm like, do I put the box in? Do I put the bag in?
I think so. We don't, overcomplicate things or over communicate or potentially even deter customers for having to take an extra step into the ease of donation. We just say donate it in whatever form or manner it comes in. And we've got solutions for the cardboard, for the plastic film that donations come in. So really, there is no preferred way to donate. Now, of course, there are donation items that we would prefer not to have. For example, like hazardous materials, chemicals, things that are soiled. We would prefer not to have it, but we also just don't want to deter donors from just relying on Goodwill to handle it. So it could get a little complicated. And each so Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County is part of a regional association of Goodwills called the Mid-Atlantic Group of Goodwills. And that's something that we're working on right now, is any updated communication for donors to have a more efficient process of collecting donations.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
I see another question in the chat here. For the plastic film for decking, are you directly shipping to the decking company, or is it through a service, something like Goodwill? Are you tracking the film like you are the textiles?
So we bale the plastic film and Trex picks it up. That's what we do with majority of our materials. We either bale it up or we put it in a gaylord, a large open cardboard box, a very large one. And
Trex is they're actually making the decking.
Yes, and they're taking it and they have their own chemical process for turning it into that decking. Regarding the second question, are you tracking the film like you are textiles? So the traceability study we've done is a one-off project that was done on only certain bales of textiles. We don't track materials currently right now, but we do take measures to weigh every material that we then divert to other organizations. And so we know from that level of weight of materials that we're able to divert, but we're not tracking the location. We know who our vendors are and what they're doing with it, but we're not physically tracking items. Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the case of the plastic film is going directly to the manufacturer who's using it. So you're pretty confident that what's happening to it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, ready a second. I'm not seeing anything. This has been great. This is very informative. I love seeing how everything you do is so sustainable, and you're thinking about every piece of what you're going to do with it. I mean,
sometimes it can be though like a double-edged sword. I think I just responded to someone recently about the Trex topic. If I was worried about the microplastics that come from the process of turning it into decking, and long story short, my response was along the line of, I would love to think of every detail, every sustainability angle for each material. But just capacity wise, we're happy with kind of our hierarchy of priorities, which is reuse and then recycling, making sure it doesn't touch the landfill. Now, of course, when it comes to scope 1, 2, and 3, there are extra measures where I should be asking myself, or where I could be asking myself, well, exactly how much of those materials then that we send for recycling are actually used. But that can, when I have my team of 20 sustainability employees, I will get onto that extra measure. But of course, there's always more that we can do. But we're taking it step by step. And again, we have Goodwills across the nation that are doing amazing things. An example of that, for example, on the textile subject, there is a bill that was passed in California called SB 707, which essentially in 2027 will require companies to take accountability for the waste that they produce in textile manufacturing. So that goes for any company that sells garments in the state of California. And we have all the California-based Goodwill territories are at the table for discussion. They were at the table of discussion for that law. And now that now that CalRecycle, the organizing body of that law, has found a PRO, Goodwills are now working closely with that PRO to see how can we be part of that accountability system for relaying the facts and figures for how many garments we're able to resell and not resell for X, Y, and Z brand. So when it comes to public policy, we're also very involved, and that helps inform all the other Goodwill territories as well.
Mhm. Okay, barring any other questions, I don't see any other questions. I see one other comment. Oh wait, one other comment. Great presentation, makes me feel even better about all the stuff we recently donated to Move House. Is there contact information? Oh, your contact information for future questions. Would you be willing to share?
Of course, this is my email. I love having these discussions, and I like curating these presentations for each different type of group. When I was at Bard College, I was speaking with their Sustainable Innovation MBA program, and so I was able to get even more meticulous when it comes to topics of like supply chain and operations. But I love having these conversations, and of course, they could go hours long. So yes, please feel free to reach out to me, and so we can continue.
Okay, thank you, Aviana. Thank you for everybody for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, see you.